Floyd Mayweather exploded after Stephen A. Smith downplayed his legendary legacy and claimed that Terrence "Bud" Crawford could actually beat him. The comments came during an intense debate that shook the boxing community. Smith's claim was bold. He insisted that Floyd was not the greatest fighter ever, as he so often declared himself to be, and argued instead that Sugar Ray Leonard was far superior. His reasoning was that Leonard fought tougher competition during his era, took more risks, and produced more exciting fights. According to Smith, Floyd's greatest wins came at lightweight and super featherweight, and while his defensive brilliance was unmatched, he didn't dominate as much when he climbed into the higher divisions. He also dismissed the win over Canelo Alvarez as less impressive, arguing that Canelo was too young and inexperienced at that time. Those remarks sparked immediate outrage from Mayweather, who refused to let such criticism go unchecked. Mayweather's response was fiery. He demanded to know why others get more respect than him when he had built everything from the ground up. He reminded everyone that his success didn't come from family connections or privilege. It came from relentless dedication, sacrifice, and discipline. He made it clear that no one gave him anything. He earned it all. To Floyd, this wasn't just about boxing. It was about legacy, respect, and what it truly means to rise from nothing. The debate, however, kept spreading, and soon more voices entered the conversation. Analyst Dawood Bey weighed in with his own deep perspective, comparing Floyd Mayweather and Terrence Crawford in light of Crawford's recent victory over Canelo Alvarez. Bey admitted that as a fan, he leaned slightly toward Crawford in a fantasy matchup, but he was quick to note that such comparisons need balance. Crawford's win over Canelo was extraordinary, a career-defining achievement, but Floyd's earlier domination of Canelo was equally historic. Bey reminded fans that when Floyd fought Canelo, the Mexican star was still developing, but that didn't mean Mayweather's victory should be dismissed. Both fighters, Bey said, brought something unique to the sport. Crawford's version of greatness is built on adaptability, power, and fearlessness. Mayweather's is founded on perfection, precision, and control. For Bey, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Crawford deserves massive credit for handling Canelo the way he did, but Mayweather's performance against the same opponent years earlier was a boxing masterclass that shouldn't be forgotten. In the same discussion, one analyst explained that Crawford's fighting energy is different from Mayweather's. Floyd's style, he said, is almost safe, not cowardly, but intelligent, cautious, and methodical. Floyd's fights were about dominance through control. He fought to make sure nothing went wrong, staying one step ahead of his opponent every second. Crawford, on the other hand, fights with a different kind of fire. When he faces opponents, especially dangerous ones like Canelo, he stands his ground. He doesn't just outbox them, he meets them head-on, showing grit and pride. This difference is what makes fans connect with Crawford in a different way. Mayweather's energy says, "I'm better than you," while Crawford says, "Let's see if you can stop me." That attitude, the willingness to engage in trade, earns Crawford special respect, especially from fans who appreciate aggression and risk-taking. Yet, as the analyst concluded, from a purist standpoint, the less you get hit, the better fighter you are, and that's where Mayweather's mastery remains unmatched. Trainer Boozy Ennis also joined the conversation, passionately defending Terrence Crawford's place among the sport's elite. He pushed back against critics who tried to minimize Crawford's achievements. Boozy explained that Crawford had proved his greatness repeatedly by taking on all challengers without hesitation. He emphasized that Crawford thrives in danger, that he doesn't just win fights, he seeks out challenges that test his limits. That mindset, Boozy said, is what makes Crawford special. It's what separates him from others in his era. Crawford's willingness to take risks and face anyone has made him one of the greatest of this generation. Boozy didn't hold back his admiration. To him, Crawford's record, his championships, and his fearless attitude already make him a legend. He believes that if Crawford wanted, he could retire right now and his legacy would still stand tall forever. But Crawford's longtime trainer, Brian "Bo" Mack McIntyre, had a slightly different take. In his view, Crawford still has a few moments left before riding into the sunset. Bo Mack suggested that his fighter could take 2 or 3 more fights, maybe even move up to 160 pounds. That wouldn't just be about chasing titles, he said. It would be about history, about cementing a legacy that is already Hall of Fame worthy. Bo Mack made it clear that Crawford isn't chasing validation anymore. He's not trying to prove he's better than anyone. He's solidifying what he's already built. Every victory from this point is about doing something no one else has ever done. Crawford has already become undisputed in multiple divisions, something Mayweather never achieved. and if he adds another title at middleweight, his place among the all-time greats would be beyond debate. Bomac also spoke emotionally about what Crawford's success means to the entire team. To him, every triumph is a shared accomplishment, not just for the fighter, but for the coaches and the people who helped him from day one. He said it gives them all a chance to one day enter the Hall of Fame together, not just as individuals, but as a team that achieved greatness side by side. After the Canelo fight, Crawford admitted that it was one of the signature wins of his career. He was the underdog, many thought he would be outmuscled, and yet he made it look easy. For Bomac, that win meant everything, not just because it silenced critics, but because it proved once again that Crawford could defy expectations. Still, Bomac and others close to Crawford admitted that long training camps take a toll. Years of constant preparation, time away from family, and the mental strain of always being ready for war eventually wear a fighter down. That's why retirement remains a real option, even though Crawford still looks sharp enough to dominate anyone who steps into the ring with him. Former world champion and boxing commentator Timothy Bradley offered one of the most heartfelt tributes to Crawford. He spoke not just about boxing, but about what Crawford represents to people who come from struggle. Bradley said that young fighters and troubled kids look up to Crawford as living proof that change is possible. He reminded everyone of the moment in 2008 when Crawford was shot in the head and nearly lost his life. That moment, Bradley said, was a turning point, the moment Crawford decided to change his path forever. He poured everything into boxing, into discipline, and into self-control. Bradley emphasized that boxing isn't just about throwing punches. It's about learning who you are, pushing past pain, and building character. He said that Crawford's journey from that near-death experience to becoming a multiple-time undisputed champion is nothing short of inspirational. For Bradley, Crawford is not just a fighter, he's a symbol of perseverance, courage, and transformation. He's someone who turned adversity into greatness. While most of the attention surrounded Crawford's win and future, others reminded fans not to forget Floyd Mayweather's journey. As sports analyst Victor Oladipo described, Mayweather's story transcended the sport itself. He created not just a career, but a global brand built on two distinct personas, Pretty Boy Floyd and Money Mayweather. Early in his career, Pretty Boy Floyd was a fearless knockout artist, aggressive, flashy, and hungry to prove himself. Later, as Money Mayweather, he evolved into a strategic genius, using defense and business acumen to dominate inside and outside the ring. Oladipo called Floyd a genius, both as a boxer and as a businessman. He built a model that fighters today still try to replicate, owning his promotions, controlling his brand, and turning every fight into a massive event. Even those who grew bored with modern boxing, Oladipo said, could turn on old Mayweather documentaries and realize how brilliant he was. From the 24/7 series to his performances under the lights, everything he did was calculated perfection. Floyd was the master of figuring opponents out. In the first 2 rounds, they might think they had a chance, but by the third, Floyd had already solved them. Once he figured you out, you were finished. Oladipo admitted that Pretty Boy Floyd might have been the more exciting version, but Money Mayweather achieved the bigger historical feats. Despite Crawford's recent brilliance, many insiders began debating what his future should be. Some argue that he should retire now to preserve his legacy. They pointed out that he's 38 years old, a 5-division champion, and already done more than most fighters in history. Others, however, felt that Crawford still had more to prove, that there were still big names left to challenge and records left to break. Those who favored retirement believed that continuing could risk tarnishing his perfect run. But Crawford has made it clear that if he stays, it will only be at 160 pounds or higher. He's done cutting weight and moving backward. If he continues, some analysts suggested 2 fights, one against Janabek Alimkhanuly, the unified middleweight champion, and another possibly against Erislandy Lara if he unifies the titles. Those 2 wins would make him a 6-division champion and potentially a 4-time undisputed champion, something boxing has never seen. But beyond those possibilities, many agree that Crawford has earned the right to walk away whenever he wants, with nothing left to prove. Trainer Robert Garcia also weighed in on the endless debate between Mayweather and Crawford. He acknowledged that while Mayweather's career was extraordinary and his record spotless, he never became an undisputed champion. Crawford, on the other hand, achieved undisputed status in multiple divisions, something very few fighters in history can claim. Garcia said that in terms of accomplishments, Crawford has arguably surpassed what Mayweather did. But when it comes to pure skill, timing, and intelligence, he still gives the edge to Floyd. He explained that Mayweather's ring IQ, defensive instincts, and ability to completely neutralize opponents make him one of the most difficult fighters to beat ever. Garcia respects Crawford's daring nature and success, but he believes that if the two ever met, Floyd's defense and strategy would frustrate even Crawford. Still, he admitted that Crawford's record, being the only man to unify 3 divisions, places him firmly in the conversation among the greatest fighters of all time. Boxing coach Greg Hackett added another perspective, focusing on how Mayweather and Crawford each performed against Canelo. Hackett pointed out that when Floyd faced Canelo, he displayed absolute mastery. He called Floyd's performance perfection. Mayweather's ring control, defense, and precision in that fight were flawless. Crawford's performance, by contrast, was more explosive and aggressive, a different kind of brilliance. Hackett respected Crawford's dominance but reminded fans that Mayweather's version of dominance was surgical. Floyd didn't just beat opponents, he dismantled them mentally. Hackett said that Mayweather's understanding of distance, timing, and rhythm was beyond comparison. To him, Crawford is a dynamic and versatile fighter, but Floyd's control of every aspect of the fight made him untouchable. As for Stephen A. Smith, even after his earlier criticism, he gave Crawford immense credit following his victory over Canelo. Smith called it one of the most entertaining performances in recent boxing history. He noted how Crawford, the smaller man, walked down a much bigger and stronger opponent and made it look easy. According to Smith, that was the kind of performance boxing needed, a reminder that skill and courage can outweigh size and power. He said Crawford didn't just win, he gave fans a show. That, in Smith's view, is what separates great fighters from stars. Smith admitted that everyone, including him, expected Crawford to struggle or run. Instead, Crawford stood firm, used head movement, ring IQ, and heart to dominate. For Smith, that was a masterclass, the kind of fight people will replay for years. Veteran boxing journalist Dan Raphael took a long-term view of Crawford's career. He argued that Crawford doesn't need to fight anymore to prove anything. His record speaks volumes: multiple-time undisputed champion, victories over elite competition, and an aura of dominance that few can match. Raphael warned that sometimes continuing to fight after reaching the top can do more harm than good. He said Crawford's legacy is already secure, and every great fighter eventually faces the decision between chasing more glory or protecting what they've already built. In his opinion, Crawford should enjoy the recognition he's earned. Whether he chooses to fight again or retire today, he's already one of the greatest fighters of all time. Even as people debated his future, fans couldn't ignore the fact that Crawford has redefined what it means to dominate in modern boxing. He's done what few thought possible: become undisputed in 3 weight classes, defeat world champions in multiple divisions, and outshine legends of the past in some categories. His combination of speed, power, and adaptability makes him a complete fighter, one who can box or brawl depending on what the situation demands. He has shown that greatness isn't about fame or flash, it's about results. Crawford's name now stands alongside the icons, Ali, Leonard, Pacquiao, and Mayweather, each with their own version of greatness. Yet even among all the praise, Floyd Mayweather's shadow looms large. His undefeated record, his defensive genius, and his financial empire changed boxing forever. Floyd built a career on perfection, never losing, never being outsmarted. He created a formula for success that combined entertainment with control. And while critics may argue about excitement or aggression, no one can deny that Mayweather mastered the art of not getting hit while making millions. That's why debates comparing him to Crawford, Pacquiao, or Leonard will never truly end. Each fighter represents a different version of excellence. Crawford's greatness is built on daring. Mayweather's is built on discipline. As the conversation came to a close, the general consensus among analysts was that both Mayweather and Crawford have left indelible marks on boxing history. Crawford's victory over Canelo has opened a new chapter, while Mayweather's perfection remains the benchmark everyone is measured against. Whether Crawford decides to keep fighting or retire now, his story has already been written in gold. And for Floyd Mayweather, despite all the critics, he remains what he has always been: an undefeated genius who rose from nothing and built an empire through skill, intelligence, and unshakable belief in himself. The debate between Mayweather and Crawford will continue as long as boxing exists. Some will side with Floyd's precision, others with Crawford's power and hunger. But in truth, both men represent 2 sides of the same coin: the pursuit of greatness. And in that pursuit, they've both achieved what every fighter dreams of: immortality in the sport they mastered.